Good morning. As you can tell, it is another beautiful blue sky day in Hawke's Bay. You probably heard that big truck in the distance. I think that they are working on what is planned to be a subdivision, but they moved an awful lot of earth to create that, and I think there may have been some issues in relation to the cyclone because there have been a lot more truck movements since then. Today the plan is to carry on with the fence and try and get all of the retaining boards on the bottom part of it. I do not have all of the boards that I need to complete that, but if I can at least get all of the ones that are on the ground level done, and then I will calculate how many more I want to put on there and go and get those, and hopefully by the end of the day I will have all of that completed. We will see. As you know, I make plans like everybody, but you don't always achieve what you hope for. Yesterday was my mother-in-law's 92nd birthday, and so that, along with some administrative and domestic responsibilities yesterday, I didn't really achieve anything on the fence. I did get one board down, but that was about it. So today I'm not expecting as much in the day, in the calendar for today, so hopefully we can achieve something. It is already 10:30. It was quite chilly out this morning, and I had other things I needed to read and process and do, and so a bit of a late start, but that's okay. You can do that when you're not on a fixed agenda. Alright, let's crack on. By way of a quick recap, you may remember that I was hoping that the slope of the boards would be the same basically from, let me see, this one from this post here all the way up behind the compost bins up to somewhere about there would be the same, but I was deceived in that that's not going to be that easy, and it would have meant cutting part boards, like ripping part boards and things underneath to make it all work, so I've flagged that plan. I am not concerned about the lateral strength of the fence, and the reason is that, as you know, we are moving the boundary, and so there will actually be a fence, not immediately, but there will be a fence that will come out here this way, and so that will give good lateral support to the fence about halfway up. The compost bins will eventually be moved and put against that fence. So that's the plan, and so I will carry on and do the rest of the boards that are on the ground level, as I said before, and we'll carry on with that. In this video, there's a reasonable amount of video that has been sped up and also time-lapse. You'll see why as we go along. Also, you will probably notice that there is a jump from the start of a particular run of boards and then a jump to the last one. It can be a bit like watching paint dry if I were to show you all of it. These 6 metre lengths vary quite a bit in dryness and therefore in weight. this one was particularly heavy. I set it down and then used the spade to cut the ground either side, so I was using it as a template, if you like. Once I had done that, I used the draining spade to dig out the soil to accommodate the board. I also needed to put a notch in the bottom edge of this board so that it would go over the concrete at the base of the middle post. As I did this, I did discover that this board is actually on the same slope as the one below it, so that did make things a bit easier, particularly with the subsequent layers above it. Each end of the board needs to be cut at the appropriate angle so that when it's in place it's plumb. This is to ensure that there is sufficient overlap of each board on the post to enable good fixing. It also looks better. The issue here that I'm going to have to deal with the bar is that when they did the boxing they didn't take it down very far, and I've got this chunk of concrete sticking out just really from here to there, so I'll break that off and then I should be able to get this last one in. By the time I have done that and done a bit of a tally up, probably going to be lunchtime, but I'll see. I may go and get the other timber that I need and then have lunch a bit later, seeing I started so late. Alrighty, we'll carry on. Once again, that is a good feeling to have all of those done. That's the hard bit really. Well, you know, the posts were a lot of work. This was a lot of fiddling about, but it is done. I will grab a block of wood and write down what I need in the way of timber and go and pick that up. And we'll carry on after that. This section is a somewhat more successful headcam video. The big wooden hammer used to belong to my dad. It's called a wooden head maul hammer, but he just called it the maul, spelt M-A-U-L. It looks somewhat medieval. It is ideal for this sort of job where you want a large surface area so that it doesn't damage the tongue on the timber. Ordinarily I would use a short bit of the tongue and groove and then hit on the top of that, but because these boards fitted reasonably well, I didn't need to. There were a couple of boards that weren't quite straight, so I drove the chisel into the post just above the board and used downward pressure on the chisel to keep the board down while I fixed it to the post. You may notice that I initially used the protractor to measure the angle, and then I moved to using the speed square. Once I have read what the angle is, it is more straightforward to use the speed square. If I swing around this way, you can tell that it is getting late in the day. The colours in the trees behind me. But I am pleased to say I achieved what I set out to do today. So it's a nice feeling. That's it for today. Just clean up to be done. I have not screwed all the boards off, but all the boards have at least one screw on every post. That will be fine until tomorrow. See you tomorrow. I didn't record most of today. It isn't very interesting when it was basically a rinse and repeat of yesterday, just further up the posts. I worked out where I wanted the top rail to go and then ran a string line through. I then went along and drove a screw partially into each post just below the string line. This gave me something to rest the rails on once I had cut them. Where there was a join at the post, I put 2 screws in, one either side of the post to support both rails. The other reason that I didn't record much of today was that there was a bit of a cacophony of sound coming across the valley from some workers and their sound system. It doesn't work to have that in the background of the video. Later in the day, I was about to record some more video when the neighbour started his lawnmower. So I thought I'll go and do my lawns as well. So that was a useful catalyst. It is the end of another day. Today is Friday, and I'm hoping that and planning that tomorrow will be the day for putting all the palings on the fence. Today was consumed by filling in the dirt as I said I was going to, so on this other side all the way down, and also down this part down here I have done on our side, and I have also put the top rail in, as you will have seen. I have now run I've temporarily fixed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 palings onto the fence, and then run a string line across the top so that when I put each paling on I can take it up until it's just underneath that and nail it off. That is the plan for tomorrow. I think that's it for today. See you later. Good morning. Now, I had a plan for today, and that was to nail all the palings on the fence. I'm not expecting that I will get that job completed today, and here's why. I really need to put another rail on the fence to nail the palings to. But because this timber is fatter than this timber, and the rail that I have, I'm going to reuse the rails that I took off, it's also a bit thicker than this timber, which is not ideal because then I'll end up with a gap between the paling on the outside here and there, and I want that hard against there. So I will need to probably check the rail into this slightly. So there'll be a bit of mucking about involved with that. I'll use the router for that. So I need to do that, and also I need to re-plug up this gap here. I haven't really decided how I'm going to do that yet. I will probably put a post just in here and just wire it to that concrete post, and then put palings across this way, all the way up. I think that's probably going to be the best plan. It's a matter of really, I could just nail them all on, but then I wouldn't be happy about that, because my concern is that as trees push branches out and things like that and come up against there, and if they get in between the paling and the post like they could here, then quite probably they could push the paling off. It needs to be done properly, so that's what I will do. Better crack on. For all the carpenters out there, yes, I know that this is technically a trimmer and not a router, but I am using it as a router. I am aware, even though I didn't follow it in every instance, that there is a best practice in the direction in which to guide the router across the timber once you have made your initial pass. That is, that the router should be turning away from the wood you are cutting. This is so that it doesn't bite into and pull itself into the material ahead of it. Maybe the best way to explain this is to think about a rotary hoe. With a rotary hoe, you want it to cut down into the dirt and drive the machine along. You want the opposite with a router bit. You want it to be pushing back against the direction you are pushing, so that it makes it easier to control. It is lunchtime, and I'm feeling as dry as a wooden god, so we will have lunch, but here's where we're up to. I have all of the bottom rail in. This one I have not fixed to the post at this point, because I need to be able to get through easily to sort this out, and so it is cut and ready to go, but I haven't fixed it. That's it for now. See you after lunch. Rather than try and wire a 2-metre piece of timber to the wonky concrete post, which is not plumb in any direction, I decided that the easiest way was to drive a reasonable peg in the ground and then screw a vertical piece of timber to it. I'm only putting this section in here to slow down the creatures, mostly the cats, and it isn't exposed to the forces of nature at all, so this will be sufficient for the task that it needs to perform. So we have 6-metre boards by 5 of, so that's 30 metres. There's actually slightly more than 30 metres, but that will do for our purposes at this point. So if I divide that by 0.15, which is what each paling is wide, 200 palings. 200 palings times 6 is 1200 nails. Next job is to start moving some palings into place so that I can then start nailing them off. It would be fair to say that for today my get up and go has got up and gone. So that's it for today. I have put out probably 2/3 of the palings ready to go onto the fence. I'll come back to that another day, but I'm not sure when that another day will be. The next week is messy. So when I get to it, I get to it. But at least I am now at the point where it's just a matter of firing up the compressor and nailing the boards on. Okay, that's it for today. In fact, this might be it for this video, I think. So hopefully you have been entertained to some degree. See you later. Bye. In the end, I couldn't resist putting a few boards on to see what it looked like. The intention is in the springtime to water blast it all and then to stain it, so it'll look much more uniform when that happens. I have some black oil stain, so that will help preserve the old timber. So this really is the end of the video now.